The latest Galaxy Z Fold8 has many people turning their heads because of the new form factor. I mean, it's definitely special. It's shorter and wider than the typical Z Folds that we had in the past, but this brings forth an entirely different user experience. We have yet another video talking about retro game emulation and how the new form factor affects our everyday usage. You can check out both of those videos down in the description below or at the top right corner there. In this video though, we are only talking about the technicalities of the phone itself. Even though this is an exciting new form factor, it still needs to be a good phone after all. So hit that like and subscribe button and hit that hype button if you have it, and everything is timestamped down below here so you can skip to whichever section that you want to know the most. But we will start off with the design of the phone because this shape and size alone is the main star of the show, literally. It's actually imitating a passport's dimension, so if you want to know how the phone feels, go take your passport and that's the cover display's size. Open it up and you'll kind of get how it feels when unfolded. Having a shorter and wider form factor means that it fundamentally changes how we interact with the device too. I personally enjoy reading ebooks with this form factor, and it also automatically splits into 2-page view after I have selected it. It is also available in 4 different colors: graphite, cream, lavender that we have here, and there's another online exclusive color called pistachio, which I think looks very calming. But back to the shape of this phone, that also affects how we interact with the phone. So we can talk about the display alone for like half an hour here, so we decided to split that into its own video. Again, you can watch it down at the description below because I've posted a link there, and please do hit that like and subscribe button if you find that video to be helpful. And I'll only leave a short summary of that video here so you know what's going on. The cover display is a pretty standard screen. It is a 5.5-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X display with a resolution of 1972 by 1248 pixels, and it's very close to the 16 by 10 aspect ratio, and it can also go up to 120Hz refresh rate. From our tests, this cover display can go up to nearly 1400 nits at max and down to a minimum of 1.01 nits. That's a pretty good range. And since the days of the Galaxy S24, we have a total of 4 different color profiles to select from. It will default to vividness level 1, but we can change it to vividness level 2, level 3, and also the natural color profile. And we actually tested all of the color profiles, but for the sake of brevity, I'm only going to show you the natural color profile and vividness level 3 so that we kind of get an idea of what kind of color gamut coverage and color accuracy we can expect from this display. Starting with the natural color profile, it has a pretty desaturated look and it covers only 73% of DCI-P3 color gamut, and the delta E number is very low, so that's good. To many people though, this looks way too desaturated and it caused a big controversy back in the S24 days. Video at the top right corner there for more context if you're interested. So we can bump it up all the way to vividness level 3 and it can cover 98.41% of DCI-P3 with the maximum delta E number exceeding 2.0, but the average is still very low, so I expect that to be a random spike somewhere. Moving on to the unfolded display, it is equipped with a 7.6-inch foldable dynamic AMOLED 2X display with a resolution of 2448 by 1828 pixels, and this is very close to the 4:3 aspect ratio, and it can also go up to 120Hz refresh rate. For this screen, we have to test both the left and right side individually, so we end up with a total of 12 different tests. But I'm again just going to summarize everything for the sake of brevity. Surprisingly, the entire screen performs quite consistently. It can go up to around 1500 nits at most, which is actually really bright, and it can go down all the way to 0.91 nits only. So again, very good range. The overall color gamut coverage between all the color profiles is very consistent across the entire flexible display and the cover display as well. There's basically minimal discrepancy between the two displays, and also the left and right half of the unfolded display is just really good. Though I do have to say that the vividness level 3 still has that very high maximum delta E number, but again, it could be just a random spike somewhere. As a quick reminder, there is no right or wrong in terms of how vivid you want the display to be. It just depends on how saturated you want the colors to be. So just select whichever color profile you think is best for you and your eyes, because sometimes if the colors are way too saturated, my eyes will get strained as well. So I personally use it in vividness level 2. Also, the inner display now has an anti-reflective layer as well, and that further enhances the experience even more, except for that humongous selfie camera cutout. I honestly don't like this selfie camera punch hole, and I really wish Samsung would just bring back the under-display camera. No matter how I rotate the display, the hole is still very big and very annoying, and reading comics with this 4:3 aspect ratio is just... well, you can see what's wrong with it. The unfolded display, while it is touted to be a 4:3 aspect ratio OLED display, it is not actually truly 4:3. By doing some quick math where we take the horizontal pixels, dividing it by 4, and then multiplying it by 3, we can see that the result don't match with the vertical pixel count, and it's 8 pixels taller than the real 4:3 aspect ratio. We can also see this happening while viewing true 4:3 aspect ratio content, as there are a few rows of black bars at the top and bottom of the screen. It's not a big deal, but I still want to mention it just in case that you're wondering why this is happening. I also want to talk about the hinge and the crease a little bit. The new Galaxy Z Fold8 series of phones have a rather not so stiff hinge. They're kind of floppy and can potentially pop open when we leave it like around 110 degrees of angle. This is especially true for this new Galaxy Z Fold8 White Edition. It can only stand at around 90 degrees, I would say. Nothing more and nothing less. This is currently at very near 90 degrees. And with that in mind, Samsung also did not include flex mode in this phone. That's quite a bummer, since I personally watch quite a lot of YouTube videos in flex mode on my own Galaxy Z Fold 7. And as for the crease, Samsung claims that it is now reinforced and should be flatter than before, but I'll only talk about it after a few months of usage. The Galaxy Z Fold 7's crease was rather invisible at first when I got it new, but after like 3 to 6 months, the crease deepens and it becomes like this. This happens to all foldable phones, by the way, so yeah, we just can't cheat physics that way. And since this display is wider than the Galaxy Z Folds of the past, it gives a better view in games because we don't have to be forced into an extremely wide FOV while cropping out the left and right side to see what's going on in the game. But the phone still needs good performance to provide a good gaming experience. The Galaxy Z Fold 8 is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy, extremely long name for a chipset, and it's something that we've seen before in other phones. However, the Z Folds are never meant for any sort of demanding gaming because they just lack a heat spreader. So when we tested Genshin Impact, it actually ran fine at the highest graphical settings. It didn't maintain 60 FPS, but it was close, and the overall experience was actually very good with a wider display like this. Then we move on to Zenless Zone Zero, and this game just doesn't hold itself back, especially since we are testing it with the highest graphical settings. While walking around the new area, we can already see super high power consumption, and that means the device will heat up real fast and also thermal throttle. Plus, this part of the map is just very stuttery, so I just don't want to talk about it that much. Then when we head into the flower boss fight, now with the new characters, because the game has evolved so much, the experience is quite bad. That's all I can say. It can drop down to below 30 FPS while the vortex is flying around the screen, and the experience was, yeah, you can see it for yourself. Wuthering Waves is the worst out of all the phones that we've tested because it is an Unreal Engine 4 game, and the developers want the game to look fancy AF, but optimizations are nowhere to be found. So, at the highest graphical settings, yeah, this phone will just immediately throttle due to high power consumption, and it goes down to single-digit FPS, while having missed inputs from my controller as well. It's just a terrible experience. We also tested a lot more games, which you can check it out in our full gaming test video at the top right corner there or down in the description below. For all I can say, the Z Fold 8 has an extremely low thermal limit of only 39 degrees Celsius, which I think is the lowest that I've encountered out of all the phones that I've reviewed so far. Yeah, seriously, this will mean that if I want to use this phone outdoors, then it's already throttling drastically since the temperature outside now is like today is a bit cooler. It's at 33 degrees Celsius. Sometimes it can reach up to 42 degrees Celsius outside. Yeah. Also, do hit that like and subscribe button so that we can get more devices like this to bring you all the gaming tests in the future because you deserve to know what this phone has to offer before you pre-order. Since the Galaxy Z Fold8 throttles so quickly and it has a 4:3 aspect ratio display, that actually makes this phone to be a perfect phone for emulating retro games. Retro game emulation doesn't consume much power anyway, so the phone won't thermal throttle, or at least won't throttle within the first few minutes. And retro games like PS1, PS2, Dreamcast, SNES, all of them are created in the 4:3 aspect ratio anyway. And it works for TV shows as well, obviously. I mean, having a small foldable phone that has a 4:3 OLED display for any sort of retro content is just unheard of. Again, we talked about this in another video, so check it out in the other video in the description below. That's a really long topic on its own. Now, the battery life. The Galaxy Z Fold8 uses Samsung's latest silicon carbon anode technology, and it is packed with a total of 4,800 mAh battery in capacity. No idea what's the watt-hour value because watt-hour is a much better way of measuring battery capacity, but Samsung doesn't publish the number. So we did two different battery life tests for this phone, one for the cover display only and another with it unfolded. All of it is standardized as we've used the same testing methodology across hundreds of devices already, so it is comparable with all of our past data. For the cover display only, the Galaxy Z Fold8 will last for nearly 19 hours, and that's an amazing number, but we have to consider that the cover display is rather small and the pixel count isn't particularly that high either. The S26 Ultra has 82.5558% more pixels than the Z Fold8's cover display, so it's understandable why the cover display alone has such good battery life. But when it is unfolded, the battery life drops quite drastically, as we're only getting about 13 hours and 44 minutes. Yes, I did the test twice and it is well within margin of error, so it is repeatable. What this means is that if we're using this phone mostly when unfolded, it's not going to last for long. It could get you through a day's usage, but it's rather risky, especially if any sort of gaming is involved. The charging speed is nothing out of the ordinary for Samsung here. This phone will support up to 45 watts of fast charging via USB PD/PPS, and from our tests, it takes slightly more than an hour to charge from 15% to completion. Not a huge difference compared to other Samsung devices that we've tested in the past. What's interesting is that when we take a closer look at the graph, we can see that the Z Fold8 will only take in a maximum of around 37 watts during the beginning part as highlighted here, but it will actually thermal throttle the charging speed at just around 35 degrees Celsius, slightly above 35 degrees Celsius, which is why we can see this kind of up and down trend in the red colored temperature line. I'm not sure why Samsung is so conservative here. Maybe it's because the new SiC anode battery. Who knows? But this is what we have right now. I do think that the charging speed can be boosted higher and the thermal limit can be raised higher so that it can take in even more wattage for a longer period of time before throttling, hence shortening the overall charging time. For the software side of things, it comes with Android 9.0 on top of Android 17. Yes, it is the first Android 17 phone that we are reviewing, and overall, it kind of feels more or less the same as One UI 8.5 on Android 16. There are some new features here and there like the new triple app multitasking view and many more, which I think is best suited for another video because I don't want this video to become a half-hour show as well. There are some apps that just aren't made for this form factor yet, like even Facebook will only work in vertical mode and cannot be used in landscape mode. Many apps will also work better in vertical mode, which I think is understandable as apps are made for vertical slab phones like this in the first place anyway, so there's that. Other than that though, it behaves pretty similarly to what we have before. Nothing out of the ordinary, and side-loading apps still work. And that includes the benchmark apps because Samsung has fixed that issue. Samsung did not intend to block benchmark apps in the first place. It was I don't know how should I put it. Was that a kind of an oversight on their side, on their part? But anyway, that's fixed. And I'm not sure where to put this. The physical fingerprint scanner is now different. It's thinner, but functionally still fast and accurate. I personally prefer this kind of physical fingerprint scanner more than an under-display fingerprint scanner because those are just unreliable and slow. As for the cameras, we have only two of them on the Galaxy Z Fold8. Once more, because of the shape and size of the Galaxy Z Fold 8, the way I grab the phone will show up in pictures. I mean, this is literally how I grab my phone when I take pictures, like this. And yeah, my finger will show up in the pictures, both cameras actually. So that's something fun that you have to consider on how you should hold your phone when you're taking pictures. Anyway, we only have two cameras here, which I think is quite a disappointment, and I would rather have a telephoto camera more than an ultra-wide-angle camera. That's because I take more zoom shots than ultra-wides. Actually, I never really use my ultra-wide that much. I just so happened to take this phone with me to Hoyo Fest yesterday, and I do think that the overall image quality is the clarity, the colors, exposure, white balance, everything. They are all okay. That applies to both the ultra-wide-angle camera and the main camera. I mean, among all the different scenarios here, the cameras are just okay. They're quite good actually. But then comes to the limitation of not having a proper optical telephoto camera. That truly affects the quality. You see, the camera app has shortcuts to 2x zoom and 4x zoom, and there's also another shortcut for 10x zoom, but I think that it should never be used and they're quite delusional for just putting it there. At 2x zoom, the pictures taken are kind of okay looking, I would say, at least for this kind of daylight shots. Once we go 4x zoom, yeah, the pictures start to look weird and we can see a lot of artifacts caused by image reconstruction algorithm. This image in particular kinda belongs in Silent Hill F, right? I just think that while the ultra-wide-angle camera's wide FOV cannot be substituted or emulated, I still think that having a telephoto camera is way more useful than an ultra-wide-angle camera. And a few more things to mention before we end this review. The Galaxy Z Fold 8 actually has a USB 3.0 port at the bottom. Yes, I've checked. And it also supports Samsung DeX alongside display output via the USB-C port. Great. What I still want to highlight though is the weird speaker placement of this phone. When the phone is folded, the speakers are pointing up and down, so that's really no different from the Z Folds of the past. But when we unfolded the display, the speakers are now biased to the left side, my left side at least, and the speakers are still pointing up and down. This completely breaks the stereo soundstage, and here's a quick comparison. So then, should you buy the new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 8? Well, I personally think that this form factor brings forth a lot of new usage scenarios like reading ebooks, reading comics, web browsing, multitasking, all of that stuff. But then again, because it is so wide, using the phone one-handed is practically impossible. Many apps are also kind of broken since they don't dynamically scale properly. Also, that punch hole camera should be removed or at least just bring back the under display camera. I mean, flex mode has been removed, so the argument of using this phone to do video calls in flex mode is invalid now. And yeah, that's all that I have to share with you in this review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 8. What do you think about this new form factor? Do you like it or do you not? And what will you do with this form factor? Let us know all of your thoughts down in the comment section below. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button and that hype button if you have it as well. Personally, I'm going to enjoy ebooks and retro gaming on this phone, and yeah, it's just perfect for that use case. Many people will say that the price of $1,900 US is too high for a device just to enjoy retro content. I would just say this, let people spend their own money however they like. I will also leave all of the affiliate links down in the description below. Buying anything using those links will give us a small kickback, and I truly appreciate your help and support. And yeah, that's all that we have for you guys here today. Yay!